The International Christian Embassy Jerusalem is your embassy in the heart of Israel, founded in 1980. From our headquarters in Jerusalem through our branches in over 80 nations and yours in Canada, we seek to challenge the Church to take up its scriptural responsibilities, to remind Israel of the promises made to her in the Bible, and to be a source of practical assistance to all the people in the land of Israel. On today's program, a visit to the Pool of Siloam, a look at the return of the tribes of Israel, and we speak again with a college professor on the difference between Jewish and Christian relations in Israel compared to North America.
So, Oren, you just brought us through the tunnel, and right now we're at the eastern side of the old city of David. Tell us what we're seeing here now.
We actually went down the Kidron Valley, the eastern part of the city, and you can easily see the steep slope climbing up. This is where the city was built. And what you can actually see behind me, this long wall of small or some of the bigger stones, this is actually the ruin of the stone walls, fortification walls of the city from the days of the Bronze Age, before David, but into the First Temple period till the days of Hezekiah, 2,700 years back. And in those days, what actually happened down this valley was that the Assyrian army was approaching Jerusalem. The people were really frightened. What's gonna happen? Are they gonna win? Hezekiah was getting ready, building fortifications, getting the underground tunnel, diverting all the water in Hezekiah's tunnel. And the prophet Isaiah stands maybe on those walls or maybe somewhere in chapter 37. He says this: "The king of Assyria, he will not enter this city. He will not shoot an arrow, will not bring up shields. He will not build a ramp. By the same way he came, he shall return home. Into this city he will not enter." Because the Assyrian forces were mighty forces. Everyone is so scared of them. But one night, as the next verses tell us, when the siege is almost there, some plague or some angel, something hit the Assyrian camp. They doubled back, turned around, went back home. Jerusalem, with these walls, stayed independent. We arrived at the Pool of Siloam, but actually originally the name was slightly different. The name mentioned in the Bible, in the Hebrew, would be Shiloach, which means connected with sending, diverting. And that was where the water was diverted by Hezekiah. And inside the tunnel, the workers were nice enough to leave an inscription, a sign. This was found inside. The original is in Istanbul, Turkey, was found in the 19th century. But this inscription actually tells us of two groups of quarrymen, one beginning at the edge of this pool over there, the other at the spring where we were before, tunneling one towards each other, a total of a third of a mile long tunnel, bringing all the water into a big pool where it was sent. So this is a place from the First Temple period already. But if you look at the floor, at the area around you, at all these stones, these are from the Second Temple period. 2004, when this was excavated, what actually happened here is they started going down through the layers and found these steps, found these stones and said, wow, understood, this is the pool of the Second Temple period. And then said, okay, let's continue deeper down, let's find the First Temple period one. Archaeologists in charge here said, stop. You want the people to miss this? We're really curious what the First Temple period one looks like. But they stopped right here and let us at least sit and see the stairs. We're next to a corner, and the steps actually lead into this huge open garden that is private property and wasn't excavated. What we have is just this side, but just by this side, we can get a basic idea of a very large pool. In the painting right here, we are at the corner. And the steps right here are these. The steps on this side are these. And it continues behind me. Just to get the basic idea of size, you can fit an Olympic swimming pool inside this thing. This is a huge pool from approximately 2,000 years ago, because this is what we're standing on, from around the 1st century Common Era. And here a very important story was actually ongoing, taking us to a man that was blind. This blind man never saw a thing. And he met someone else that spat onto the floor, took a little dirt with spit on, put it on his eyes and said, bathe in the pool of Siloam, or Shiloach, where people take a bath. Of course, this man was a blind man. He was sent by Jesus to maybe bathe in a bath right here. So was this a ritual bath? Was this just a bathtub, or a very large bathtub. Anyways, it's a place where people got water for apparently laundry and cleaning and bathing, and it was used by many visitors arriving. And of course, in such a basic big place with thousands of people around, this is a place to get ceremonies and people gathering in those days as well. So this is the big pool of Siloam that later on its name changed again, and it became Silwan, which is actually the name of the neighborhood right next to us. In many places, the Arab name still reminds us of names from thousands of years back. It might be a little bit confusing because you see a ceiling above my head, but you need to imagine it open to the sky. I'm on top of a street. These are steps climbing up from this pool of Siloam down below, up through a valley, reaching the area of the Temple Mount. And these steps, underneath them, there's a little drainage channel. Now we know of drainage channels that exist, but the amazing thing when this was discovered in the last 8-9 years is that they found inside the drainage channel 2 cooking pots, fully intact, never broken. Apparently they were full of food, but that isn't there yet anymore. And what actually happened right here is that they found remains that tell us of someone that was hiding underneath me inside a drainage channel. Very small, just a few feet in height, place to hide with your family, food, whatever you need. Coins were found on the floor. Coins from the Jewish revolt against the Romans, years 66 to 70 Common Era. And everyone said, okay, what's going on here? They opened the book of Flavius Josephus, named The Jewish Wars, a book of a Jewish historian written right after the destruction in the years 70 and 80, first century. And there he tells us that Jewish rebels saw the temple destroyed, saw the Roman soldiers breaking into the city, destroying, smashing, but they came from the north. We're in the far south. In other words, people said, wait a minute, let's save our lives. How can we survive? Nowhere to get out, under siege. Inside a drainage system, people started to hide. And what the amazing thing here is that not only is Josephus Flavius telling us of these people hiding and the remains of their cooking vessels found inside, also the Romans smashed the street. In this location, just in several yards of this area discovered, you can see holes. In total, 5 holes. That the Romans smashed the street, looking for people hiding underneath. What they left for us is just a few coins and a few cooking pots left behind from the year 70 Common Era. Part of these rebels maybe managed to get their way to Masada. Others, I don't know. But we're on a marketplace street that was also a place of destruction of the city. This place was found covered by piles of ruins of the houses and shops along the street that fell upon us. In the excavation, they took almost everything away, except these few stones, just as a little memory of what rolled onto us from around.
And he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the 4 corners of the earth. Up next, Michael Freund, founder and chairman of Shavei Israel, a Jewish organization who ICEJ partners with to return Jews to their homeland of Israel.
I started Shavei around the year 2001, and quickly enough I saw that there were these communities out there around the world with a historical connection to the people of Israel, many of whom are still conscious of that connection and want to do something about it. They want to reconnect in one form or another. In fact, it's a phenomenal thing that's taking place because it's happening everywhere from the first world to the third world and the worlds in between. It cuts across socioeconomic and ethnic boundaries.
Right.
There is an awakening that's taking place, which is hard to explain from a rational perspective. It seems as if there is something metaphysical or theological that is going on as God is reaching down and touching the hearts of a growing number of descendants of Israel, prompting them to go back to their roots. The very idea that a lost tribe in northeastern India could be our lost brothers and sisters, it just seemed preposterous at first. But when I traveled there, when I learned more about their history and their traditions and their customs, I became convinced about the historicity of their claims. I became persuaded that they are in fact descendants of a lost tribe. We know from the Bible that after the death of King Solomon, the people of Israel became divided. There were the 10 tribes living in the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom of Judah. Even back then, we liked to argue a lot among ourselves. The Assyrian Empire, which was the superpower of the day, invaded the land, captured the northern kingdom, and cast the 10 tribes off into the mists of history, where seemingly they were lost. But you and I and everyone out there who are people of faith, we know that no one is ever truly lost in God's eyes.
True.
And those tribes, the B'nai Menashe and others who wandered for so long, they kept faithful to the traditions of their ancestors as best they could, even though they were cut off from the rest of the people of Israel. So even though they ended up living in the far reaches of northeastern India, they continued to practice biblical Judaism. They kept the Sabbath, they kept kosher, the laws of family purity. They even practiced the sacrificial rites. And about a century ago, when the first Westerners reached that remote part of what is now India, they were astonished to discover this population group that believed in one God, whom they referred to by the Hebrew word Yah, and that dreamt of a place called Zion, where their ancestors had once come from and where they hoped to one day return. There was a DNA test that was conducted a few years back by the Central Indian Genetics Laboratory, which is based in the city of Calcutta. And they found that the B'nai Menashe have certain DNA markers that are indicative of a Middle Eastern origin, which is not what one would expect to find in a population group living along the border of Burma and Bangladesh. Over the past decade, we were blessed to bring about 1,700 B'nai Menashe to Israel until the Aliyah was frozen in 2007 by the government of Ehud Olmert for political reasons. I then spent the following 5 years cajoling and lobbying and nudging, praying a lot, pounding the floors of the Knesset and various government ministries until finally, in October of 2012, the Israeli cabinet passed a unanimous resolution to restart the Aliyah and to allow us to bring 270 members of the community back home to Israel. We brought those people here a year ago. Their Aliyah and absorption was very successful, thank God. And in the wake of that, the Israeli cabinet passed another decision in October of 2013, granting us permission to bring an additional 900 B'nai Menashe back to Israel. And the first batch of 160 have just arrived here over the past 4 weeks and are now settling into their new homes here in the Jewish state. On one of the recent flights, which I had the merit to accompany here to Israel from India, there was a 75-year-old widow named Yafa, whose husband, it had been his dream for decades to go back to the land. Last year, unfortunately, he passed away, but his parting words to his wife, Yafa, were, "Stay strong, stay determined, and you will make it back to the land, and my spirit will be there with you." And Yafa stayed strong, and she was able to get on that plane. And when she landed at Ben Gurion Airport, waiting there to greet her were her son, who she had not seen in 7 years, as well as her grandson, who was wearing the olive green uniform of the Israel Defense Forces, guarding and protecting the very same land that his grandfather had so longed to see. And when I saw them embracing each other, you could feel the presence of her late husband there. And it's very important for me to note that this is a miracle that is being facilitated by Jews and by Christians working together. The ICEJ has sponsored the flights of the first 160 B'nai Menashe to Israel, And this is an incredible thing when we consider what the nature of Jewish-Christian relations were just 100 years ago, 50 years ago. If someone had said,
Yes.
in the near future,
Yeah.
Jews and Christians would be partnering to bring Jews back to Zion, they would have been sent away to a facility.
Yeah.
But now it's becoming a routine. And this too was foreseen by the prophets. Isaiah chapter 49, verse 22, God says that the nations of the world, you out there, you will carry our sons and daughters back to the land. And that is what is happening.
Your arms on your shoulders.
You are carrying us back, carrying us with your love, with your prayers, and with your support. And we appreciate that, and we are grateful for that, and we see it as another fulfillment of the divine plan.
Coming up next, a college professor talks about a program exploring Jewish-Christian relations in Israel.
We're in the Jezreel Valley College with Dr. Phaedra Shapiro. Now, Phaedra, tell me about your being a director of a new department here, the Gallery Center for Studies in Jewish and Christian Relations. You head that up. So tell me about what you do here at the college.
Well, sure. Let me just say that where we are now in the Jezreel Valley, this is really the pioneering center of Israel. This is the breadbasket of Israel, if you will. And this is where some of the earliest Jewish settlements began, agricultural settlements. Merhavia, I believe, was founded in 1911. Just in this area. So the whole spirit here is very, very pioneering. And that is definitely, I would say, the inspiration behind the college generally has been to offer opportunities and building the state of Israel here in the north by offering public higher education to about 5,000 students here at the college now. So it's the largest public college in Israel. As part of that, and in terms of location, we sit on the road. This campus, as you know, sits on the road between the modern Jewish city of Afula and the ancient Christian and now Muslim city of Nazareth. So in many ways, this college stands as a place of intercultural encounter. And I'm happy to say that one day they found me and asked me to help further that vision of intercultural encounter.
Well, you're a perfect choice.
Oh, well, thank you.
Now, you've been studying this over several years, the Jewish-Christian relations. What can you tell us about what it was when you were studying it, and where do you think it has, or where you've seen it come to today?
Well, I've been working specifically in evangelical Jewish relations. In the last 10 years, when I started doing that, it was very much an unknown. There was a lot of suspicion. I kept telling people that I was studying Christian Zionists, and they said Christian scientists. People really didn't know what it was all about. And I think that in the last 10 years, there's been such a growth in terms of relationships, of joint projects. There's been really a lot of light shone on the topic, so that it's a much more known entity. There's a much higher degree of trust than there was 10 years ago. I think that we have a clearer sense of what kind of organizations, what kinds of people are really good to work with for the Jews and for the state of Israel, and what are some of the factors and concerns and changes also in the evangelical scene that are not good for the state of Israel. But all of that has become much more public, and people are much more aware of it, and I think much more appreciative of it.
I was going to say that.
That's right. Where 10 years ago there was much more suspicion, now there's a much greater appreciation.
I would have to agree with that. And I think that barrier can only be broken by us getting to know one another.
Absolutely.
Seeing people's heart for the common cause and how we can cooperate. And for us, for ICEJ in the land, we have all Jewish Israeli partners all the time. We have Christian Arab partners. So just by working together, we get to know one another and to trust one another and to accomplish wonderful things. what would a student do here for your program? What would they learn about the relations?
Well, first of all, a significant part of our work is precisely with Israeli students. So we offer regular undergraduate college courses to regular Israeli undergraduate students that they wouldn't have a chance to take otherwise. Jewish-Christian relations, introduction to Christianity, introduction to Judaism, because they don't always come to college knowing anything about their own or other people's Jewish backgrounds. Jewish-Christian relations in a historical sense. Those kinds of things are offered through our center, are taught in Hebrew, and allow a student who is a major in political science, let's say, to know something about Judaism, Christianity, and the relationship between them. But we also do specialist work with students. So for example, we have a fellowship that students can apply for to do extra courses, to do an enrichment seminar. And we give them a scholarship in order to encourage them to participate. It's very competitive. We have a lot of applications, and we only take the best of the best. This year we have 13 students. 13. We have funding for 13. Right. They do an intensive seminar with guest lectures, and I do the teaching. Jewish-Christian relations, they do field trips. We're going to Nazareth in 2 weeks for some keynote speakers and a tour. And it's really it's a mixed group. We have Jews and Christians and Muslims. We don't check people's backgrounds when they apply. It's just based on their expression of interest in Jewish-Christian relations. And we know we have a tremendous impact on people, on their own relationships, on their families. When we talk to people about what they felt that they got from those kind of programs, they're always amazed, because it opens up worlds to them that they've never even thought about learning about before. So getting to know their neighbors.
And you have the scholarship, so that's a bit of a motivator, isn't
Absolutely,
it?
yes.
For those who don't have the scholarship, they're just a curiosity. Mm-hmm. Are there myths dispelled through the studies here?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that's pretty much our business, is breaking stereotypes, I would say. First of all, I mean, I take students, for example, in the Nazareth tour. Every year I've had students who say, well, this is my first time in a church.
Oh, really?
I've never had any reason to go into a church before. I always deal with students who've never met a Christian before.
Really?
Yep, never knowingly met a Christian. So with only 2% of the population, it's very easy to not even know the people that you're going to classes with, the people that you're living next to. So definitely, breaking stereotypes is part of what we do, giving people more information. I like to say in North America, you encounter the New Testament every time you sleep in a hotel room. In Israel, just in a scholarly kind of way, people don't know anything about the New Testament. They don't know anything about the Jewish environment of the New Testament. Just as a historical document, it's very foreign to them. So when we teach in Jewish-Christian relations, we try to break down some of the stereotypes and the fears around those kinds of things. But we work with Christian visitors from overseas, pastors and lay people who want to enrich their Israel experience with a seminar, very dynamic, on everything. We do things on Jewish family values and how they are similar to and different from Christian family values. We do things on Passover and Easter and the relationships between them. We do
Hanukkah and Christmas?
Well, we haven't done that actually. So we do things about Jewish-Christian relations in Israel and how they're different from Jewish-Christian relations in North America. Those kinds of sessions on prophets. There's a wide range of things that we've had the chance to do with visitors from Europe and from North America.
Thank you for joining us today, and be sure to visit our website at www.icejcanada.tv. 100% of what we receive from you toward a project goes to that designation. Through your contribution to ICEJ Canada, you can participate by giving to Bet Singer Children's Orphanage Bathrooms, Christian Friends of Yad Vashem, Home for Holocaust Survivors, Israeli Youth at Risk Summer Camp in Canada, Operation Life Shield Bomb-Proof Shelters, Red Carpet Project Women at Risk in Tel Aviv, Shoulder to Shoulder New Immigrant Partner Project, Women's Shelter Project, General Fund, Gift, Estate, Securities Funds, ICEJ Communication Media Fund.
We're actually looking at stone that probably Jesus walked here.
Limestone there since basically the